Did you ever wonder how long a Coturnix quail will live in captivity? That's the question we're going to answer for you today. Hey guys, welcome back to another Slightly Redneck video. Again, my name's Chris, and if you're not familiar with this channel, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, your deck, your garage, or even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to do it. And today, we're talking about how long you can expect your birds to live. It really varies widely depending on what you want to do with them. I will say right off the bat though, it is possible for them to live up to about 6 years in captivity. Although that's probably a little bit on the high end. The average is probably something around 4 years. So if you're just keeping your birds for pets and you want to know, how long can I expect them to be around, probably on average about 4 years. They tend to be pretty hardy little birds, but after about 3 years, they start to become susceptible to things like, injuries or illness or some diseases, some of those kinds of things. So you can probably expect about 4 years out of them on average, but up to 6 years is not unheard of. Now, if you're keeping them for meat and eggs and you want to breed them, you want to produce more birds, you're only really looking at probably getting about 2 years out of them before their really productivity starts to drop off quite a bit. They're very strong egg layers for, like I said, about 2 years. And then after 2 years, the productivity starts to drop. They don't lay eggs nearly as frequently. Their fertility rate starts to drop a little bit. So if you're looking at keeping them around just for producing eggs and meat for your family, you're gonna look at having to replace them about every 2.5 years, probably, on the long end. I like to replace mine really about every 1.5 to 2 years. Because again, after about 2 years, they really start to drop in their productivity. I've said that a couple of times. Hopefully I'm not repeating myself too much, but it works out well for me to replace my breeders about every 1.5 to 2 years. And actually, I would probably replace them a little bit more frequently than that. What I tend to do is to, about once a year, I tend to keep some of my larger birds from a hatch and replace a few of my older birds. So I don't keep real close track on how old every bird in my hutch is, but I'm sure that they get switched out pretty regularly about every 2 years. All of them are getting replaced. And I do that, like I said, about once a year. I'll replace about half of them with the bigger birds from a new hatch. And then I might do that again 6 months later, a year later, whatever. So I'm getting a pretty good rotation of birds through there. Now, I've talked about this before as well, but it is good to bring new blood into your quail hutch every once in a while. If you're just constantly replacing the babies, the breeders with the babies, then eventually you are going to run into some kind of line breeding or inbreeding type problems. It takes a very long time for that to really come out in your quail, and you're good for probably 5-6 years before you have to really worry about it. But I do like to try to get some new blood in about every 2.5 years, something like that. I'll try to get either some roosters or just get some eggs from another source that's not in my bloodlines, hatch those out, and then use those as some of my breeders to mix in with my current flock. And that kind of keeps things from getting too, like I said, too inbred, too line breed. It's not a huge issue in quail, but it is good to mix that new blood in every great once in a while. All right, so we got that question out of the way. Let's talk about how the meat makers and the pharaohs are doing. Right now, doing great. I know a couple of you people have been watching the videos for a while. You've seen kind of how these birds progressed. I'm still not noticing a huge difference between them. They're pretty much the same size. One thing I will say is that the meat makers do seem to be a little bit more docile than the pharaohs do. And let me show you kind of what I mean by that. So if I open up this cage, this hutch right here, they're all gathered around the water right now because I think I got a leak. The water bucket drained out and they're thirsty. But I go sticking my hands in here, and these guys are, they're not really paying much attention to me. I don't know if you can see this or not. I'm kind of blocking the camera. They're not paying much attention to me. Some of them are going in the sandbox area over there, but they could care less really if I'm in here or not. They're not too jumpy, not too, not aggressive at all. They just don't care too much. So let's go take a look at the pharaohs real quick and I'll show you the difference. All right, so the pharaohs, when I get in here, first thing you're gonna notice is they don't back right away from the cage door like the other ones do. And I go sticking my hands in here, they're very interested in my hands. They will, they'll start pecking at me. See them? I don't know if you could tell that or not, but they don't really, they don't tend to back down. They're pecking at my hands. They're not, I don't know if you call that aggressiveness or not, because it doesn't hurt. It's not like they're being super mean. Oh, look at that, got an egg, got to take in. But they are not, like I said, they're just a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more aggressive. But with that being said, I'm not noticing any injuries in any of the birds. So they may be picking on me, protecting the flock, so to speak, and that may be a good thing. But neither the meat makers nor the pharaohs am I really noticing anything that tells me that they're being aggressive with each other. I'm not seeing any of them picking on each other. I'm not seeing any pecked eyes. I'm not seeing any feathers pulled around the face of the birds or any of that kind of stuff. They seem to be getting along with each other just fine. I'm interested if I put two of them together, if the pharaohs would be more aggressive towards the newer birds than the meat makers would. I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to put them together just so they'll fight so we can figure that out. But my thoughts would be, I think that the pharaohs would probably be just a little bit more aggressive. So let me back this camera up so I can talk a little bit more comfortably. All right, that's a little bit better. I don't have to scoot back as much from the camera here. But again, my thoughts are that the pharaohs, I think, are probably going to be a little bit harder when it comes to mixing new birds in. It's just a guess at this point. I don't really have anything to base that on other than just the way the birds are acting with me. And I think the meat makers might be a little bit easier to mix new birds in with. But again, I don't know that for sure. We'll find out as I have some future hatches and things like that and start mixing the birds and see how they react. Anyway, wrap this video up for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And as always, God bless.